So as you can see, I have my 3 books pinned up here. And you can do that for those who don't know. You can go into user preferences and you can look at your reference library settings, and you can pin a certain number of books. And so when you do that, those books are the ones that will pop up first. So I have actually 5 books pinned. The 5th book doesn't show up here because it does not have an entry on Nature. So the 4 of the 5 books will show up at the top that are your favorites that are pinned. And then it starts with alphabetical order, all of the other entries on Nature. And so, once you're done with that, you can go back and you can look at any other remedy. And, you can say, okay, view remedy family, and this will show you all the different possibilities that you can limit your chart by. So I clicked on stramonium. And so if you want to, limit either by the APG system or Cronquist should be up here. Solanaceae, if you work that way, looking at kingdoms and groupings and subgroupings, if you work that way and you just want to see what other Solanaceae remedies are there, then you could just click on that. And then you see it limit the whole chart just to the Solanaceae remedies, belladonna, stramonium. So there's a lot of functionality here. And you can still click on one of these and say, okay, now show me the remedy in the reference library, because I don't know this remedy. Actually, I don't know this remedy, duboisinum. And you just want to study it and see. So that's how you would do that.
Roopali, Peggy is asking, I guess, Peggy, let me know if this is incorrect, but she's saying she's still finding it cumbersome to look up remedies in reference library, where you're actually in reference library. You're not going from a clipboard.
Yeah, from the chart or from somewhere else.
Right. So if you could cover that.
Sure. Again. So actually the one difference that we did make, that's a positioning difference from the last version, is that there used to be another icon up here, which was called Insight. And it was really for students and to help them take a case and, a basic repertorization. And we weren't really happy with the way that that was looking. So we actually took it completely out of here. And now the first icon on the top left is your repertory module. This used to be the second icon, but it's now all the way on the top left. And all of the others follow in that same order that they were in before. So reference library is now the second icon. And so when you come in here, you can, Peggy, I'm sure you know this, so you can look at remedies or you can look at books. And so the default will always be remedies. And if you're looking at any remedy, you can just type the first 2 or 3 or as many letters as you wish of the remedy that you're looking for. And so, if I type something like this, then it will just show me stramonium. But if I just leave it here, then it shows me all the remedies that start with STR. So depending on what remedy you're looking for, how close you want to get there, you can type. So this is the quickest way to look up a remedy. The other way is if you have your favorite books and you're looking for that particular remedy in that book, then obviously you would go in here first and you would type the name of the book, and then you would look for the remedy. So, I generally have a couple of vermulins up here. And so I would do that. And then in here, I would, if I'm looking for, and I don't even know if it's there, but I just type ST and it takes me to the first ST remedy. And then, you can look for others. I actually typed STR AM and it didn't do anything. So then I just typed ST because I realized that stramonium is probably not in the synoptic 2 materia medica. So once you're in the book, you can click anywhere in the book. And then, so now let me try pulse. Okay, so I'm going to just nowhere in the program, just on my keyboard, I'm going to type PUL and nothing comes up. But if I type P, it takes me to P, you see? So pulsatilla is also not. It's probably in either the synoptic reference or in synoptic 1, but it's not in synoptic 2. So PUL, if you type, it's not going to come up unless that remedy is actually in that book. The other way would be is if you're looking at a group of remedies, then I would use the filter button. And I would come up here and I would say, just show me all the snake remedies. And I would hit apply. And now all the remedies that are showing up here are only snake remedies. So that's another way, if you're working in a particular grouping, to limit, instead of the 1,000+ remedies that might be there on the left-hand side, you can make the group more manageable, assuming that there is something that links that smaller group of remedies that you're interested in. So for me, the quickest way is to type the name of the remedy here, as little or as more as you want. For example, if I'm looking for calc, the different versions, the different salts of calc, then I would just type calc and all of the calcs would come up. So that makes it much more manageable. And then I can go and research, because let's say I'm trying to decide between one of the salts of calc, then it's better that way to have a smaller group to work with. Does that help? And Lucy, do you have anything to add in terms of how else you could get to a particular remedy?
No, I think you covered it very well. And I'm trying to speak up because I did get a comment that I can't be heard very well. Another question, Elena wants to know, can you limit in the repertory module, can you limit to just see the lack remedies?
Yeah, the milks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna clear this out here. And so let's just here, so if you, let's say you're in the mind section here, or you want to limit the entire repertory. So there's 2 ways to do this. There's the local way to do this, and then there's a global way to do this. So, and as you can see, there is a limit or a filter icon on each chapter that you're going to open in each repertory. Or there is a global filter, which is applied in the repertory module, and it will apply to every single chapter and every single repertory that you open. So if you are working on a lack case and you just want everything to be lack, then you would come up here and you would go to Kingdom. And there's different ways to do this. I'm going to try lacks. So here, milks, right? And you can do that and hit apply. And you see how the mind chapter already changed while I applied that. And so now if you say, let's do the remedies by grade, you'll see, I'm going to open this a bit. You can see that all of the remedies that are showing up in the mind chapter are all lack remedies. And if I was to open a different chapter, the same thing happens. Now, I did notice that I changed the view in only the mind chapter to look at the remedies. So I can only see the remedies here. But if here, because I didn't change the view from the global setting, I only changed it from the local setting, you still can't see the remedies here. So for the purpose of this exercise, let's change it globally. And you can see that every single chapter that I'm opening, and we can move away from this repertory and we can go to any other repertory.
And Lisa wants clarification. You started with the filter button.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes. Lisa.
Okay, so Yes, I did. So here I just opened the head chapter from the Complete 2020, and you can see that this is also still limited to only the lax. So if you're studying in the lax and you're looking for a lac remedy, and then it would be best to apply the filter from this global button here. You can see the filter is put. You can change your views here, and that way everything that you open will be limited to lax. If you're just in one chapter, in that moment you want to check up something, then you can do it locally from within the chapter itself. But those would be the two ways that you would do it.
Excellent. Julia wrote a question. She's wondering if you can write the whole case taking in the chart.
Yes. So I don't usually do that, but let me see. So let's, sorry, here. And you can fill in all the details. You can fill in the symptoms, previous treatment, diagnosis here. I think that in patient notes, you can actually put in the whole verbatim case, if you like. I believe that comment, all of the ones that have, the formatting options, those I believe, I would want to know, Lucy, if you know what I'm saying is right. Otherwise, we should confirm with the technical team. But my understanding is that here these are limited fields, so there's a certain amount of data allowed. You can definitely, for symptoms and previous treatment, your diagnosis, and also for any comments, you're going to make sort of smaller comments. But patient notes is the field where you can put in the entire case, and it will take the entire case.
I think you're right. I can't remember either. Sorry about that. And let's see, was there a follow-up on that? Well, while you're there, Anya
Yeah.
wants to know, why are there two windows called symptoms and patient notes? Can you rename a section?
Yeah, that would be nice. So
Yeah.
the reason that these windows are fixed the way they are is because we still have a lot of people who are transferring cases from Repertory to SHS. And so in order for the case to transfer exactly as it is in Repertory, those same fields have to be there in the SHS patient management system. So if for example, a homeopath has some notes in symptoms, and then they have some other notes in comments or diagnosis, and we don't have those fields, or we allow the fields to be customized, the name to be customized, then when the cases are transferred, the transferring utility doesn't know where to place those notes if it doesn't find the exact same field on the other side. And so that's why the patient management options are structured exactly the same way as they are in Repertory. And then, of course, a couple of versions down, once we feel that most people have moved away from Repertory and are on Synergy, then we can really design the patient management system in a way that would make sense. Right now, I agree with you. I agree with you. Sorry. Excuse me. There are too many fields that I don't specifically use, and some of them overlap. But unfortunately, our hands are tied because of the case transfer issue.
Right. And speaking of that, another person asked, how does this transfer work? I have tons of cases in MacRep.
So the way the transfer works is that it's a little bit of a multi-step process. It is doable, definitely. If you're technically inclined, it's doable. from one program to the other, but we're encouraging people just to come to tech support, set up a appointment and say you want to transfer your cases, and they will transfer the cases for you, and you can go through them and make sure that they look exactly right. I would want to speak here about two things when you are transferring your cases. The one thing, the most important thing, is that you should let them know in your request for the appointment, let them know if you have cases in older repertories. And by that, I specifically mean older versions of the complete. If you do have cases in the older versions of the complete, please let the tech support team know before the case transfer process. So and I say that because if you have cases in CR 2011, for example, and that's not currently in the Synergy program, or because a lot of people don't use it anymore, it has been removed temporarily, then they have to add it back to your program, and then the case transfer should happen, because otherwise, when the rubrics from the different cases and the clipboards transfer over and they don't find that exact same repertory that the cases were done in, then you just get missing rubrics in that case and your clipboards are not complete. So that is one important thing. The second important thing is if you have tons of cases, and by tons of cases, I mean thousands of cases, then the case transfer process, because it's 100%, it's a data transfer, it takes a very, very long time. And so what we're asking homeopaths and users to do is to pick the most recent of your cases that are still active cases and transfer those first. So create a folder with your most recent last 3 years, last 4 years, patients that are still active and coming into your clinic. Create a folder of those cases, because anyway, those are the cases you're going to need first. So transfer those first. Everything goes well and you're happy with it, then you can come back and all of your historical cases that aren't active anymore, but you still want them, just set up, different appointments to do the stuff that's not so urgent and in the present. So those are the two things that I would tell you when you set up your case transfer.
Thanks, Roopali. And another person asked if I have two computers, how would I go about seeing my cases on both?
Okay, so this is a similar process that you used to do if you did have MacRep. And I can tell you two different ways to see your cases, actually possibly a third different way. But so what would happen is that you would, so I have 3 cases in this right now. And what you would do is you would go to user preferences and you would use backup restore here. And if you like, we can do that. Actually, let me do that and show you, except I don't have my second computer hooked up. But what you would do is, so I'm going to say backup. And what it's going to do is it's going to open this window and you have to create a folder that will contain all the cases for that day that you backed up. So these are currently backed up to this folder, which basically says SHS backup, and it has the date. I always put the date so I know. So what I'm going to do instead is go to this folder, which I have, which has all my different backups from different days. And I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to say SHS, because that's my naming convention, 2022 09 09. Okay. And so now I've created a new folder for today, and I'm going to say create. It's created that folder. And now I expect that my 3 cases are going to back up in here. So let's see. And you see backup created successfully, and it tells me the file name 2022 0909 that I created the cases in. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you that they are in fact there. So here's all my backups, and this is the latest one. And you see my 3 cases are here. So because I'm connected with iCloud, my desktop, you can see that I'm connected to iCloud. So my desktop automatically syncs with the desktop in my second computer if, you know, we are in the same Wi-Fi. And so what happens is that backup then automatically appears on the desktop of my second computer. And what I can do is I can open that computer, go back again into user preferences, and this time I would click on restore, and it would ask me then which file backup or folder backup I want to restore. And I can say that I want to restore the September 9th backup, and it will put those 3 cases back into that machine. So this is one way. If you have a any kind of cloud that is syncing between your various machines, then if you back up on one machine to a folder that is in that cloud, then it will, you know, create that same folder. The more manual way to do it is to then plug in a pen drive or an external hard disk, download that folder, and then manually insert it into the other computer and restore from that folder. The third way, which is less common, is that some people, especially at work, if they're in a practice or in an environment where there is a local area network, and then on that local area network, all machines that are connected will also do the same thing that a cloud will do. And so that folder will automatically, your backup folder will automatically appear on the other machines that are connected to that local area network. But pretty much for most people, you would take your stick or your pen drive, you know, download that folder, carry it over to the other computer. If you leave one computer at work and one at home, then you can just use that stick to, you know, take the latest version of the case back and forth. And if you make changes in the case, but the case is still already there, if you restore or to the same folder, it will basically overwrite the old case with the new case information. It won't create multiple files unless you rename the file or you rename the case. You know, for example, here, like if I did a retake of this patient and I named it Neil retake, then it looks at that as a new case. But if you left Neil as is and you just kept changing the information, then every time you would restore that backed up case, it would just overwrite the old case and add in the new information. Okay.
All right, very good. And to answer one question, does restore only bring in these saved cases? Yes.
Yes, whatever you save. Yeah, exactly. So actually, you know, when you click on backup, it's going to back up everything that's in your patient list. But some of that maybe you don't want to save. So if you go back in there, here and here. So if I go back in here and let's say I delete one of these cases because you know, for example, I will delete the test. And then when I restore this backup, it's only going to see those 2 cases. So it's only going to restore Neil and Patty. It's not going to restore the test case because I deleted the test case from the backup. So yeah, whatever is in your backup file is what's going to get restored.
Perfect. All right, we'll move away from patient management. We've got a few questions that are have to do with other areas of SHS. Karen asks, can you go over the steps in dealing with a rubric that has 0 remedies, no plus sign? She's finding that confusing.
Sorry,
So
say that again.
If you can go over the steps in dealing with the rubrics that have 0 remedies and no plus sign. So basically turn on the cross references. Karen would like you to
I see. Okay. Yes. Okay. So there are remedies. For example, there's one right here. It does have a plus sign, but right underneath it is active, agile, 0 remedies, and no plus signs. So it really feels like a dead rubric because you can't do much with it. You can't add it to the clipboard and you wonder why it's even there. The reason it's there is because there are cross-references. So cross-references are basically similar rubrics within that chapter or in in generally, yes, within that chapter, which talk about that same nuance of characteristic. And so the way you would do that is, and you can, I don't have the cross references turned on all the time. Sometimes if I'm struggling with a rubric and I'm really not looking or finding what I'm looking for, then I will turn on cross references in that chapter. But since we're talking about this, I'm going to do it from the global part, which is right here. So you turn this on and you say, okay, you see? And so now if you look here, you can see that active agile was actually, a useless rubric because it wasn't giving you any remedies and it's not able to be put on the clipboard. But the reason it's there is because it tells you 2 other rubrics that might capture some of that qualities of an active agile mind. And so they are just written differently. And so in order to find them, you have something called cross-references, which can be incredibly useful. And so now you know that you might want to look at generalities, agility, which will cover agility in all the parts of the person, physical as well as mental. But then there is a specific rubric for mental agility, which is under agility actually, and not under active. So that is the use of rubrics with no plus signs and 0 remedies, is that they're indicating that there are other rubrics which can be revealed if you turn on cross-references that will cover that quality or that characteristic in the patient.
Thanks, Roopali.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Heather has asked, she's struggling with entering the symptoms to find rubrics, and she's hoping that you can run through how you would start a new case with.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends obviously on the case and the symptoms, right? If you are, let's say, relatively new to a particular repertory and you are not familiar with the rubrics that you're thinking of, or when you're looking at a case or listening to a patient, it's not completely clear which rubrics would capture that case and that patient. The best way is to look at the case and at the very least start to sort out their physical issues and then what you observe about them or can get from them on their mentals. Okay, so make notes. And if they're coming for specific issues like constipation or migraine or, so those clinical issues you can write down, right? And so you make notes, you try to make sense of all that patient information you've gotten by separating them into physicals at the broadest level, physical symptoms and mental symptoms. Then in physical symptoms, you can also differentiate in terms of local symptoms and general symptoms. And the same thing you can do for mentals as well. And then when you have that, then you have to look at modalities, both for physical and mental. So, when is their migraine better? When is it worse? When is their constipation better? When is it worse? Time of day, foods that they eat, or any other mental qualities that might make the physicals worse, or vice versa. So you kind of have to lay a picture out of the case. And then when you have that, then for example, that their constipation gets worse if they have dairy products. Okay, so when and I'm just making this all up on the spot. So, the thing to search for is you can do 2 things. You can go into so knowing that constipation is in the rectum chapter, you can go into the rectum chapter and open that, right? And then you can just type CON, and you'll see constipation come up, right? And so now you're in the constipation section of the repertory of the rectum chapter. So what you can do, and this is, more, this is also to help you learn and familiarize yourself, but you can basically go into the constipation section. So now you're in that section of rubrics that deal only with constipation. And you can go through some of these and read and see which ones, assuming this is a big issue for your patient, it would make sense to read through everything. And so you can then read through everything, whatever seems interesting, you can also, she has a headache, so she has migraine and constipation. So maybe there's something here that's useful, right? And there are some sub-rubrics here that's useful. Or you can just choose that. You can say, whenever she's constipated, she also gets a headache. You can choose that rubric. The other thing you can look for is you can use our search. So you're in constipation, let's say, within 3 words of milk. And you can see what comes up. I have no idea what will come up, but you see, now we have several repertories here that have rubrics in them with that search criteria, which is constipation within 3 words of milk. And so what you can do is you can look here, constipation, milk aggravates, or milk cold aggravates. So there's 2 rubrics here that might be helpful. You can also go into some other rubrics, and you see here that's okay. So constipation, milk after, or milk cold ameliorates, which is the opposite. So there would be 2 things I would tell. So in addition to making sense of the case and breaking it up into physical, mental, generals, modalities, locals, particulars, and then you try to find those rubrics that would capture those pieces. And you can do that either by going into the relevant section of the chapter of the repertory, or you can try using global search and crafting your searches here. If you're not sure of if you already don't know which rubrics you're going after, then a good way is to come up here and type up, migraine / I would do both, headache within 3 words of evening, let's say, and you see, depending on what you type, so you actually, migraine headache within 3 words of evening has rubrics in all of these different chapters. And maybe you just want to look at mind and head, but you might want to see if there's something related to constipation. There's a rectum rubric here too. And there's all these other repertories that have those sorts of rubrics that would fit that search criteria. And you can modify the search criteria also. I mean, in the same, so you could add that. You could say, is there even a remedy out there that has migraine in the evening and also constipation within 3 words of milk? So we combined the first rubric and the second rubric. And there's actually 19 remedies that have evening headaches along with constipation that's related to milk. It could be ameliorated by milk. It could be aggravated by milk. But, so there's many different ways to approach a case. And then once you have a sense of your case, many different ways in which you can actually start to repertorize it and analyze it within the program. Yes, what's REM for? Okay, so here you can see, let me clear some of this up actually. So here, and my Zoom toolbar, let me pull that down. Okay, so you can see here that I've crafted a search in a particular way. There are specific rules in terms of how you craft your search. The the slash actually refers to or. So it's going to search for either migraine or a headache within 3 words of the word evening. So it could be evening ameliorates, it could end up being structured in any way, but this is a broad way. It's close enough to have a relationship, but it's not too broad where, like if I had put 5 words, then sometimes actually evening appears tangential to the actual issue because it might appear much later on in the sentence. And then the other thing you can look at is,
And Rupali, also cover how you get those 19 remedies onto a clipboard. Julia's.
yes, I'll do that. Okay.
Okay.
So then let's say, so this is my one rubric. I know this is a quality of the patient. The other thing we were discussing was constipation. But what you can do is you can also look for, so you see there, when I click on my space bar once, it just creates a space. But when I click on the space bar a second time, it says SEN, which means in the same sentence as, and then I can add another modifier there. So, I mean, it's difficult, right? Because in the same sentence, if you're talking about migraines or headaches in the evening, in that same sentence, within the entire Materia Medica is going to search for something else. It has to be related to that same headache. It's very unlikely that they would talk about 2 different, completely different things in the same sentence. But you can look for things within the same sentence. Then if you just tap on the spacebar one more time, it changes to para, which means in the same paragraph. So now you're looking for 2 different things which occur in the same paragraph anywhere in the Materia Medica, but it obviously has to fit those modifiers. Then if I tap again, it becomes section. And if I tap again, it becomes remedy. So anywhere in a remedy, if you see migraine headaches within 3 words of evening, along with constipation within 3 words of milk, then it's going to pull up all those remedies. So I said constipation within 3 words of milk, right? And then we got that search and there were, okay, it's going to build it again. 19 remedies. And if you actually thought that that was an interesting capture of some aspects of your case and you would want to look at those 19 remedies, you can of course scroll down here, but here it will show you the 19 remedies along with all of the references that actually match that search. So if you just want to look at it on a clipboard, here's the plus sign. So if you click on that plus sign, you see it will tell you new rubric added. And if you go in here, it shows you reference library search, and that's the search that you crafted. So that's your rubric basically. And here are the 19 remedies that showed up for headaches and constipation in the same remedy, along with certain modalities, right? Evening and milk. So now you can either do more research here or you can add more rubrics here that are in your case. And the other thing you can also do is you can just, let's say you look through here and you say, whoa, lacdelphinum seems very interesting, but I wonder what are the references that made it pop up in this search. You can go back in here and you can come to lacdelphinum, IJKL. Okay, here we go, lacdelphinum. You can actually see all of the references that showed up in, the different books that they showed up in. And you can research that if you like by clicking on this or double clicking on this. You can see MagCarb. You can also see the relative number of references that came up for each remedy. So obviously, I mean, look at how long MagCarb is. And so MagCarb has a lot more written about it for these two things than, for example, Lac-Delphinum did. Lac-Delphinum has very few entries, and most of them, once you start using the program a lot, you'll also start recognizing some of these acronyms, right? So VZC is basically CR17, CR18, CR19, CR20. So all of the Lac-Delphinum references are actually mostly in the generalities and head chapter in the different CRs, and the CRs are repeated. So clearly the 17 information got picked up for the 18 and the 19 and the 20 and the 21. So it's actually really only 2 references for Lac-Delphinum. So it's not a huge remedy for this kind of search that you're doing. But MagCarb, you know, has a lot of references, and you can explore those. Those are also, you know, a lot of these are coming up based on the way the search is crafted. A lot of these are coming up in the complete, and they are mostly rubric related pickups actually. But for NUCs, you can see that it's actual Materia Medica books. And there's also obviously rubrics that have been picked up. So you can also see the search that was conducted. Now for Pulse, you can see it's a lot of Materia Medica books that were picked up, but then again, also a lot of rubrics. So the search, the way the search is crafted, it will lead to certain kinds of references being picked up, but you can also see the quality of the information that's coming up and whether, so there's a lot of information on Pulse. You can see it just goes on and on and on. So it also helps you understand which are the stronger remedies for these 2 rubrics being together jointly in a remedy, as opposed to certain other remedies that have weaker or smaller information. So this window here can tell you about the quality of the information. It can tell you each reference that was picked up, which can then, of course, you know, be, so I'm going to pick up, let's say, one of the Materia Medica. Let me go here. So here in generalities, in this book, you see there is a write-up about headache in the evening. And so you can click on it and it will tell you the paragraph that it was picked up from. And if you double click on it, it will actually take you to that paragraph and it will highlight all the words that were in your search term. So you can read that paragraph. And sometimes you see the program is basically executing the search that you crafted. It's not able to actually read the paragraph and then decide, is it appropriate or not? Only you can do that. So the advantage of this is that it shows you each reference. You can, if some of the references seem off, you can double click and go to the exact reference in your reference library and then read up that paragraph and see, is this really similar to what your patient is showing? And is this therefore a good reference to look at for the same case as your patient? So you can evaluate the quality of the information that gets picked up. Okay, are there any questions surrounding this?
Well, Lisa asked, does global search provide a broader harvest? And I would say certainly yes.
Yes.
Yes, it
Yes,
certainly
it's
does.
my personally my preferred way to work. Even, in fact, let me tell you, even when I do know the rubrics and the section and the chapter where they come from, for me, it's not just a broader harvest, but it's a faster execution too, because I could just type, I know the keywords to type here in the search bar, and it will just pull up those rubrics for me instead of me navigating through the repertory, through the chapter, then in the chapter finding the right section, and then the subsection and the sub rubrics. For me, this is the preferred way to work. Even when I know exactly where I'm going, it's still a faster pull if I go through global search.
Yes. We're almost out of time, but I have a question for you that had come in earlier from
Mhm.
Hillary,
Yeah.
and I didn't quite I don't know if I don't know the answer to this. Maybe you do.
Okay.
Okay, so let me get to the question again. Here we go. Is there a way to find the duration of action of remedies in our program? Can you think of a way?
No.
Um,
No, this is a homeopathic question. A duration of action of a remedy depends on how well selected the remedy is.
okay.
Um, right? And there's nothing in the Materia Medica that says that this remedy, when chosen for this problem, is going to act for this long. There is nothing like that. What you can do is, if you are choosing a remedy for a particular problem, you can look at some of the clinical literature we have in the program, i.e. cases that are in the program, and there are literally thousands and thousands of cases. You can look through, so you can look for, let me show you if I can do this. What you can look for is to find cases that are similar to your case for which that remedy was prescribed, and then read the outcome. So it can give you some idea on how that case evolved under treatment, and how long that remedy lasted before they had to change it, or if that was, if it is, and we still talk about similimum remedies, and a lot of us practice with the concept of similimum remedies. So each time, you find a remedy, you're trying to get closer and closer to the heart of the case and the heart of the patient. When you do end up with a similimum remedy, that remedy is supposed to last a very, very, very long time. I'm not going to say forever, because we don't have cases that have forever in them. But so I'm going to say the closer and closer you get to the similimum remedy, and you are matching every aspect and experience and symptom of the patient, that remedy covers everything, then it should last a very good long time. So a well-indicated remedy should last a long time. But the other way you can do it is to find cases that are similar, and read up on those cases to get an idea. So for example, the one thing I will tell you is, like, we know that there are certain remedies, and it's written in the Materia Medica about those remedies, that they tend to have a slower effect. They just work slower, and they need more repetition. And so, I mean, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with that statement, but in general, I was taught, and I have read this, that silica tends to act slower. And so, if you're prescribed, maybe that's something that you can see. I don't know, depending on your clinical practice, if you have given out silica a few times and you've seen that in general it acts slower than other remedies, that gives you some idea for how long a remedy will act. But there's nothing really about how long a remedy will act in a case. That really depends on how well selected the remedy is.
Great. Thanks, Rupali. And I've got one last question here. We're
Mhm.
just about out of time, but Julio asked, is there a way to filter for super classes within SHS, or would somebody have to purchase VitalQuest to do that?
This is a good question. The superclass, subclass information we are sharing at a certain introductory level, but it still comes through VitalQuest. It is not part of, because it is a very specific way of analyzing and working. So it is part of the sensation module, that information. So in order to even access that in free introductory information that we have been given by the author, you would have to have VitalQuest. And then I believe, not at the moment, but soon, we will have the more detailed information about superclass, subclass. And I believe that even with VitalQuest, that will be an additional purchase. It would be like an add-on book that VitalQuest can use if you want the much more detailed, in-depth information about subclass, superclass. So yes, the answer to your question is, if you need any of that information free or purchased, you will need VitalQuest as a module.
All right, and a couple more came in quickly. If you could help Anhana understand how to size her clipboard so that she can see her more remedies in her graph, basically just moving the lines, show
So
how to move the different.
So there's two divisions here. Okay, so you see this little darker spot here, and then there is a little darker spot, thicker spot here. So you can resize. So of course, the first choice is, do you want your clipboards and your chart to be seen together? If you do, then you can, resize this, right? Make it smaller. And then you can also resize this, you see, and make it smaller. And what it will do is it will now, instead of wrapping, in the earlier version, some of you might remember this, it would wrap the entire rubric around. And so the rubric would become like 4 lines. Now we just truncate. If it's a long rubric, we truncate. And you just see the ... You can always see the full rubric on the clipboard. And then that way, if there were more remedies here, so actually, let me just open this. I can open both. Let me see what's in here. No, that's very short, because though that's both reference library searches. You go to see that. Yeah, okay. So this is closer to what somebody might have. This is a more traditional case with 9 rubrics. And you can see I've scrunched this up like here. And I've kept these here. So I can see like a ton, actually. I can see almost 25 remedies here. I could also move this, more. It really depends also, obviously, on the size of your monitor. I would suggest, unless you are going back and forth with a case that's written out in Word or another program, and you want to see that side by side, I would definitely suggest that you maximize the space available on your monitor when you're working, because that gives you the most flexibility. And now that you can actually move all the windows around and lay them side by side, obviously the more space you have, the more windows you can open up and lay out side by side. So the best thing is to use these, and here. The other thing you can do, obviously, is also just get rid of the clipboard. Okay, and you can open this a little bit more so you see all of the rubrics, and just see all the remedies. You can see a lot of remedies. And when you're ready and you've done your analysis, or gone from here and checked out all the different remedies, you can go back and you can open the clipboard up again. So how about that?
Yes, that was very clear. And that's all the questions that we really have. We are out of time today. Just want to thank everybody for coming and being part of our training session.
You're welcome, everybody. I'm so glad that we're able to do this and that you guys come, and I hope that it's helpful for you. It's really, really informal. So, you can come with any issues. If you have a little mini case, or if you have a case, you can just summarize and bring it, and we'll just help you work through or explain, or if it's just not working out, just bring any questions you have. And there's no set session. Sometimes we do come with like specific information that we want to give out, or sometimes I'll bring a case and try to show it, work through the whole case. But yeah, just come, and it's 1 hour to spend working to get to know your program better, and it will just yield a lot of benefits as you actually work through your schoolwork or your cases. So
Yes. And our next session, somebody asked, is I believe the 23rd. That'll be 2 weeks from today.
so 2 weeks from today, I look forward to seeing you all back.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Now, do I end the session or can
Yes.
you?
Yes.
I do. Okay, let me stop share. Yes, here we go. Goodbye, everyone. Have a
Bye.
great weekend.